Hi everyone, I'm Farhana Yamin. I'm an associate fellow at Chatham House and also an international lawyer. I've worked with developing countries and with NGOs and with philanthropies in the last 20 years or so. I hope you're going to come up with some brilliant ideas for how to make the most of the next couple of years, culminating in the COP in France. But much more importantly, also help build a global movement that's really going to make sure that whatever does come out of um, the negotiations in France will actually help our longer term goals of creating a more just, more equitable, more sustainable, and saner and nicer planet. I'm just going to use the few minutes that I have to brainstorm and chuck out some ideas that at least I'm thinking about, and I hope that some of you will find them useful in terms of how you may be coming at what you plan to do in the coming few years. What's missing in the current climate regime is a big picture emissions reduction goal. This has been something that the energy intensive industries, the energy producers have made sure has been gutted out of both the convention and from recent negotiations time and time again. So the big thing that's missing is a requirement to reduce and get rid of greenhouse gases. And the big picture idea is to try and have an overarching goal, a mission goal as it were, which is to get rid of net zero emissions by the year 2050 or mid-century at the latest. We can have an argument about when, but in very clear, big picture terms, to make sure that all countries and their leaders, all major companies, all of the emitters sign on to this goal to actually phase down and get rid of these dangerous poisonous gases. And that is the big picture thing that's missing. That's why we're here in terms of negotiating a treaty fundamentally first and foremost. I think other things come from that, the switch away to other kinds of what replaces those cleaner technologies, and the funding and the technological transitions that are needed come from that. So I hope that one of the big ideas that can galvanize, mobilize, and hold governments very clearly to account, as well as businesses, is this idea of making them answerable for securing a net zero emissions economy by mid-century. A second area that I think could be potentially very exciting and holds the promise of mobilizing people as well as producing clean jobs, better homes, cheaper energy bills, is the idea of turning to the building sector. We will have an almost a complete turnover of buildings, and as part of urbanization, huge numbers of cities and urban environments are being built across the world, as well as being renovated constantly in the developed world. And buildings are one of these sectors that's not so sexy. People don't really look at it so much, but it's also one of the largest contributors of greenhouse gases globally, accounting for around 30% of emissions and 40% of all energy use. And it's one of the sectors that can deliver virtually zero emissions by 2030 in some ambitious cases. And lots of very exciting initiatives going on in the US and also in many other countries to make our built environments zero by 2030. So I think this could be a very big push and a very big new frontier that can also excite people, because it delivers local jobs, it delivers cleaner, better homes and office buildings, and much nicer places to live. And those are all big benefits that we haven't really sort of focused on in the past as much. So net zero overall, net zero in buildings. I think a third sort of idea that has got me quite excited, and I don't see a big push around at the moment, nor a specific set of sort of campaigns, is on meat consumption and agriculture as a whole, and food. There's a lot on food security, but I think a lot of it is not focusing on how the combined systems of production that we have are fostering patterns of land grabs, of excessive mechanization, of forcing small scale and organic and locally produced agricultures out of the system in favor of a much more inhumane, more greenhouse gas intensive pattern of agriculture. Agriculture, again, is one of those huge sectors, accounting for around a third of all greenhouse gas emissions globally, and one where changes can actually make very big, large, rapid reductions and help take us to zero over time rather quickly. It's also a sector that connects with everybody's day-to-day and personal decisions. You decide what to eat or not eat every day. And one of the things that really struck me after Warsaw was that it's a place where also religions and the world's great cultures can have a real influence. Most religions, most cultures, and have times when there is fasting, either for solidarity reasons or health reasons, and maybe this is a campaign to focus on fasting, on low meat or no meat, can be part of a big contribution that makes us look at what we individually, through our day-to-day decisions in what we buy and eat, can contribute in terms of sustainable farming, sustainable agriculture, and food security worldwide. So there are some pretty prominent vegetarians also. Pachauri, Christiana Figueres, many others have spoken about that in a personal way around then, and I see this could be a one perhaps long-term key thing that could help drive a net zero world, as well as bring in other constituencies working on other parts of the equation. I think there's been a lot of amazing work, and it's continuing, on disinvestment, on shutting down coal or phasing out of coal. That remains a huge and big task. But even the figures that have just come out show that the fossil fuel industry is still outspending by a factor of 2 to 3 times the amount of money that is putting into opening up new reserves. Is something like $674 billion in 2012 versus the amount put into clean investment, 286 billion, I think. So the proportions and the sums and direction is all wrong and needs very rapid change. And I think the growing disinvestment campaigns are something that can be quickly scaled up and rolled out, and can have traction. I think combined with that, my last sort of big idea that I think most climate people are not working on as much is really the role of rich individuals and the role of a handful of global elites and a handful of corporations. The Oxfam's report onto the 85 richest people having the same wealth as 3.5 billion of poorest people that came out last week is a strong campaigning lens. I think the work that James Glatfelder and others have done, which track the connections and density and ownership patterns and show roughly that there are 140 sort of companies that basically rule the world. The work of Richard Head focusing on the carbon majors, um, combined with the work that is now being done by investigative journalists tracking down tax havens. The latest report by the consortium of investigative journalists, which have shown that there are around 37,000 tax havens with clients from China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, many of them with fossil fuel connections, is, I think, starting to now build a database really of rich individuals and corporations whose footprint is disproportionately large in terms of fraud, corruption, bribery, and breaking the rules, as well as lobbying intensively to maintain privileges that allow them to keep exploiting fossil fuel and other resources unsustainably and against the rules of most of the countries they operate in. So I think combining our campaigns, lobbying, our work with these other research and campaigns that are going on now, looking really at the footprint of individuals and elites, maybe figuring out how direct action, how litigation, criminal investigations can uncover what they're doing is really, I think, touching upon something that's ripe in the public imagination about how our systems need a fundamental reset. So these issues are not just about changing a policy here or adding a carbon price there. These are really about challenging the fundamental power dynamics and altering them. And I think that unless that is done, whatever agreement we do manage to reach in Paris is not going to really take us forward all that much. I hope those are some useful suggestions, comments. Look forward to your feedback. Look forward to working with you on trying to avoid a debacle of Copenhagen, but also avoiding a treaty or an agreement, I should say, which is meaningless and makes our job much more difficult in the future. So good luck with your deliberations and look forward to hearing of the outcomes. Thank you. Bye.